Okay, so what the hell is going on in Mali? Not only do we have the UK preparing to send troops of a sizable amount, we already have the French there that are fighting these Islamic terrorists, apparently. And so this is why there's so much interest in Mali from the UK, France, and now the US, who plan to build a base for their drones near Mali. And this is all because they're worried about terrorism and how that may impact Europe. I mean, this is ridiculous. We are talking about tribesmen here in an African country that is pretty much third world. And now they're sending troops and basing drones. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me. And I find it interesting also that there are other connections, and the truth may turn out to be stranger than fiction. Now, what made me very interested in this activity around Mali was that my attention was brought to a report regarding what happened in Timbuktu, which is a city in Mali. Apparently, when they were fighting these French-led troops over there, these militants that they're calling them, when they were driven from the town, they basically burnt thousands of priceless Greek manuscripts and other ancient texts. Now, why would these militants bother burning these priceless Greek manuscripts? And it's interesting that last year when they were in this town, they also burnt down other treasures, such as shrines and monuments. So why? Why are these militants trying to destroy these ancient texts and these shrines? What is the message there? They didn't destroy anything else. They left everything untouched. All they wanted to destroy were these manuscripts. Now, a lot of people may say, well, because, they're Muslim and they are, wanting to destroy anything that opposes the Quran. And I think that's a cop-out. And I really think that that's the angle that the media are trying to play here. So we need to be careful about just consuming this information in the way that they are trying to relay it. Let's start looking beneath the surface. Let's start looking between the lines and joining our own dots. Because I find it interesting that all of these countries that they liberate happen to be areas where ancient civilizations once lived. Very ancient civilizations. Iraq was basically where they found that human civilization as we know it today began. Syria has some of the most ancient sites in the world. Egypt, well, I really don't have to explain how important Egypt is. And of course, we've also got Iraq. And we know that when they arrived in Iraq, the first thing that they plundered was the museum. Now, why would you bother to head straight for the museum and take artifacts and texts from the museum before anything else? I mean, they didn't even secure this museum. They basically went in, plundered it, took what they wanted, and then left it for the looters to come and basically then plunder afterwards. And it's interesting what they took from the Iraqi museum. They took artifacts, but most importantly, they took pieces of the Torah. Yes, very interesting that they took pieces of the Torah. And guess where there are other pieces of the Torah? Syria. Yeah, interesting. And isn't it interesting how Israel are really, really pressuring the Western terrorist government to invade Syria. In fact, there are reports this morning that Israel has already been in Syria and basically, dropping missiles. Why do they want Syria so badly? We're all thinking that it's the resources, but perhaps there are other things that they are actually looking for. I just find that it's very interesting that all of these places that they are liberating are very important in our ancient history, very important to human civilization, all of these countries. Now, the other interesting thing about Mali is that this is where the Dogon people actually originate. And the Dogon people, for all of you that aren't aware, knew that the star Sirius actually had another star that was orbiting it, Sirius B. Now, this tribe, this African tribe, knew about Sirius B before science even discovered it. And they say a lot of very interesting things about the Namo, which they say came from Sirius B and basically imparted knowledge, and they were amphibian-like creatures that were very, highly conscious and basically helped the Dogon people. And so I find that very interesting that they are in Mali as well. So this is really important to, once again, our history. Now, the other interesting information about the Dogon, and I find it really curious how synchronicity works a lot of the time in my research, because before I found this information about Mali, I actually came across this photo that someone posted on Facebook, and I added it to my collection, and I was just looking at this glyph and trying to, decode it. And I noticed that there was some very interesting information within this one here. Now, this is just my, basically decoding of this symbol. And what I find is it's interesting how they have this type of fishtail here, because it reminds me of galaxies and how galaxies actually look. And they have these, energy, dust clouds emanating from the middle of them. That looks very similar to what we see. And we could even look at this as being some type of energy source that is emanating out from the galactic core. And we see this planet here, this orb here that could be the planet Earth. And we can see it's got two lines. Now this could be Sirius A and Sirius B. I'm not sure. I don't know. I just thought that was interesting, and that was just some of the correlations I was making. I just saw that, and it just reminded me of some of the information from Thunderbolts Info and how they talk about this electric pinching, and it just reminded me of this. So anyway, that's just my observations there. But, guys, look, what the hell is going on over in Mali? There is something going down in Mali. It's got to do with these ancient texts. Why did they destroy them? Is it because these militants actually know why the Western terrorist governments are there? Why they're paying so much attention to Mali? I mean, I didn't see them pay this much attention to Sudan, and we saw people slaughtered and hacked to death. And we didn't see the terrorists of the world taking any interest in that, even though there were people, basically crying out for them to do something. But, we have a small group of rebels, and suddenly we've got the UK, the US, and France all heading over to Mali. Anyway, as I said, these are just my observations, and I just find it very, very interesting. And by the way, they have still not returned the stolen artifacts to Iraq, nor have they returned the Torah. And guess what? The US gave these pieces of the Torah to Israel. So do with that information what you wish. But to me, it just seems very, very unusual. Okay guys, well I really will leave it here now and I'll post all of the links under the video. And as always, peace out.